What promised to be a really strong season for Ferrari has turned into one of the worst seasons they've ever had in terms of strategy calls within the turbo hybrid era. A car that's had title-winning pace, along with two very capable drivers, and simply Ferrari being one of the most experienced teams in Formula 1, yet they've managed to continually move the goalpost further away. Hungary was no exception, and after a really promising first half of the race, Ferrari then decided to make some interesting strategy calls, which unfortunately put Ferrari once again in a position where they couldn't capitalise on their good pace. Both Leclerc and Sainz unfortunately lost out on podium positions and possibly even a win as well. So let's actually recap and understand what happened during that race. I like to think of this season from Ferrari as walking up an escalator the wrong way. Now you still end up getting to the same place and you still end up getting to the next level, but the problem is it takes you twice as long and you expend twice as much effort. That just seems to be a very good analogy for Ferrari's season this year. Loads of comments have been made on this as well, and Jeremy Clarkson actually tweeted during the race, "As abuse is no longer allowed when we speak about F1, I am forced to say Ferrari strategists are brilliant." So what actually happened with Ferrari? Well, at the start of the race, having qualified second and third, the two Ferraris were doing relatively well. Leclerc capitalised on a slower pit stop from both George Russell and Carlos Sainz and was promoted to the lead with a nice little gap. As the laps passed, Verstappen, who again was working his way through the field with some good pace, went for another pit stop, which both Ferrari and Mercedes responded to. However, Ferrari then decided at this particular moment to put Leclerc on the hard compound tyre, knowing full well this was the slowest tyre by a country mile. Alpine was on the same hard compound as what they just put Leclerc on, and their pace was absolutely abysmal. And again, Ferrari should know this. They've done this in testing and they can also see it happening live in the race. Ferrari still decided this was the best call, and then presumably Leclerc's pace just fell off the face of the earth and dropped off a cliff, and he was running around significantly slower for majority of the race on the hard compound tyre, unable to do anything, with Martin Brundle commenting that the hard tyre resembled concrete as well. Just a quick one before we move on, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing and leave this video a like as well. It helps massively and you'll be able to keep up with all of my other videos moving forward. A few more laps passed, and when Russell overtook Leclerc, they finally decided to do what they should have done in the first place and put Leclerc on the soft tyre compound. By that point, it was already too late. Having lost all of the time on the hard tyre, he was never going to make it back through the field and finished P6, unable to overtake Perez towards the end of the race. Many words were spoken after the race, not any really being that positive. Leclerc called the strategy a disaster, Ted Kravitz called the strategy call baffling. Naturally, Binotto tried to say that the poor finishing result from Leclerc and Sainz was due to the pace in the car. Realistically, when it comes to Leclerc, there was only one thing that was the problem, and that was the Ferrari strategy call. No, they may not have had 100% of the pace they should have had in the race, and Verstappen may very well still have won the race, but they would have had a much better chance of getting a potential win or a podium if they hadn't made some silly strategy call. The fact that they moved Leclerc back over to the soft tyre showed defeat in their strategy anyway. If they were confident in the tyre itself, they would have let Leclerc finish on the hard compound, but they didn't and they made him pit. Ferrari just can't seem to move forward from this odd strategy call mentality that they have. They've got a really strong car this season, and they have a very good chance, having some really good races in the first half of the season, of winning the championship, both the Constructors and the Drivers' World titles. However, both of these championships have pretty much gone out the window, realistically looking at the point standings after Hungary. Don't get me wrong, the drivers have made some mistakes which hasn't helped, but at the same time, the majority of the calls from Ferrari have been the issue. It's been the same with races this year as well. Monaco, for example, a first and second at the start and then a second and fourth at the finish didn't really pan out well, with Ferrari trying to do a double stack, unfortunately losing massive amounts of time for both cars. Leclerc, unfortunately, being the one that lost out the most. Silverstone as well, a late safety car that was brought out near the end of the race. Ferrari decided to let Charles Leclerc stay out on the tyres he was already on, whereas everyone else went to pit, including his teammate. In this race, they were easily able to do the double stack, with the gap being significantly bigger, so it wouldn't have been a problem had they have pitted both cars. But again, Ferrari decided not to go down that route, and they went with a really odd strategy call, which again, unfortunately caused Leclerc to miss out on another potential win. They've had some great races, don't get me wrong. Ferrari is a very strong team. However, they just can't seem to keep it together long enough to actually fight for a title. Every team has their issues and Ferrari is no exception, but they just seem to be making a few more mistakes than they probably should. I really do hope that they improve going into the second half or the final third of the season, and they improve in the years moving forward. It's something that the fans, the drivers and the team deserve. I'm personally not a Ferrari fan, but at the same time, it's really hard to see all of the mistakes that are being made. Ferrari haven't won a Constructors' Championship since 2008, and if they want to change that, they do need to sort themselves out. Let me know what you think about Ferrari strategy calls down in the comments below. Again, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing, and if you could leave a like on this video as well, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all for watching, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.